Hello, everyone, and welcome to our conversation about our global studies trip to Ireland in summer of 2022 with educational leadership. As you can see, the dates for our in-country experience are June 19th to July 1, 2022. We recommend that you travel on June 18th to Dublin, Ireland. One of us will be traveling with you if you'd like to do that. But you can go as early as you like, and so that's why we list the dates of our in-country travel. I'm Gina Umstead, faculty member in educational leadership, and with me is...
Hi, I'm Sarah Marshall, and I will be coming on the trip with you all.
So we are really excited about this experience, and we have some great information for you that we'd like to share today. So here we are in 2018 in Ireland, us together at a little coffee shop as we're getting ready for our day in Ireland. So the academic focus of our 2-week study abroad trip is social justice, comparative education, both K-12 and post-secondary, history and culture, and also access for all. So we're going to talk to you about those and just about the different experiences that you'll have joining us on this trip. So who's welcome? Really, anyone who qualifies as a graduate student. So current students, visiting students, alumni, friends are all welcome, but you all have to enroll in our course, EDL 752, Global Studies, in order to fully participate in the trip. So you have to actually do some assignments. So we can talk about that and what that looks like. The students have to take 3 credits for this trip. And so if you can see below, we've got our estimated program costs, which are at $4,966 to $5,266. And what that includes is the program fee. So basically your in-country costs, where you're going to cover your hotels and the meals that are included, and a lot of the cultural activities and lectures and things that are taking place in the country. And so that fee you can see there is basically $2,900 to $3,200, depending on how study abroad sets the price. So we always have a range that we're working from, and then plus 3 credits of tuition. So depending on what level of student you are, that's what your tuition will be. So you might be a graduate student, you might be a doctoral student, there's a differential there, and you might be a graduate assistant and your tuition may be covered. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at the costs. You might have some sort of tuition reimbursement available to you. Study abroad does offer small scholarships for this experience, so we always recommend that our students try to apply for those and obtain those too. Airfare is estimated at $1,000 to $1,300, just depending on when you buy it, when you come in, like what your parameters are going to be for the trip itself. And then miscellaneous in-country costs are just really any food that's not covered in the program already and souvenirs and things that you want. That's estimated at $450 to $650, depending on how much money you like to spend. So that is a quick overview of what the potential costs are and when we're going to be there. Now we're going to talk to you about how amazing the trip is going to be.
So we all arrive in country in Dublin together on, what was that, the 19th?
18. Oh, yeah.
18th of June. Oh, but you have to be in country by the 19th.
You're
So
right.
we'll have a designated spot that we all meet up in when the trip begins. And we spend our time in Dublin. And as you can see, Gina tried to circle some different areas for you. We'll then cross country over to Galway, which is on the west coast. Then we head up to more of a remote area up in the northern part of the republic called Glencombe. Then we'll move over to our second country, which is actually Northern Ireland, and we'll spend some time in Derry and in Belfast, specifically looking at the conflict between the Protestants and Catholics in that part of the country. So we don't do the lower part of the Republic of Ireland, but we really do hit most of like from the middle up, and then we also hit 2 key areas in Northern Ireland.
And then when the trip is done, you'll fly back out of Dublin.
And then we'll come back to Dublin. Yep, thank you. So part of when we are in Ireland, we have the opportunity to really look at the experience through the lens of social justice. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be attending the Glen Cree Peace and Reconciliation Center. We'll also be in Derry. If you are more of a loyalist, you probably will call it Londonderry, where the actual conflict began. And then we'll also spend time in Belfast. And again, our intention there is to really look at the conflict that's occurred over many decades between the Catholics and the Protestants. We have an opportunity to learn from someone who is actually a former member of the IRA. So it's everything from touring and looking at the different murals to attending or visiting the museum in Derry and really learning a lot and digging in deep to understand where this conflict comes from and how it is even today.
So this is what Sarah was talking about, the sites
Sorry, I
you're
jumped
going to
ahead a little
visit.
bit.
No, that was great. The other thing that we didn't talk about is that we had the opportunity to do some civic engagement work, meet with people who are part of student unions when we were in Ireland last time, and we plan to do that again. So then another really important aspect of the trip is the comparative education part. Now I have to say, when Sarah and I went the first time, we did a pre-trip and then we did the trip in 18, that we loved meeting with the educational leaders. That was part of what made the trip so special. So we have some pictures here of us meeting at different schools, government buildings, and universities. And so we'll visit all of that when, well, this upcoming summer. So just a quick note about the K-12 system is that it's a publicly funded system that actually primarily consists of Catholic schools in Ireland, but it has a growing cadre of national secular schools. And when we visit the University of Queen's in Belfast, we'll be talking to Tony Gallagher, who's going to tell us a lot more about that secular movement. And one of the really awesome things about this trip is that we're going to be placed in schools in Dublin if you are focused on K-12 environments. And so we're going to have several days where we learn alongside Irish school leaders and educators. So this is a new aspect of the trip that we're really excited about.
Absolutely. And then from the higher ed side, we take a little bit of a different approach in that we visit a series of post-secondary institutions while we are in country. And we have the opportunity, like we'll have some meetings that are prescribed that all of us will attend, but then we also build in time where you have the ability to reach out to the college and university leaders based on the research interest that most appeals to you and learn more about how that specifically works in Ireland and Northern Ireland. So, for example, on the very first trip we took, gosh, maybe this is our third time or fourth time going back to Ireland. And our first trip, we had somebody who was really interested in human resources. And so, when we visited these different universities, then what she did was she set up individual meetings to talk with the human resource individuals. So, we'll spend a lot of time learning about student services, learning about like more student-centered engagement. We'll learn about their admissions process. We'll learn about how they approach issues of equity, really by learning about all the different facets of how their system works. And it is very different than in the United States, which I don't want to like have a big spoiler alert, but there's a lot to be learned about how they work their admissions process into the universities that's very different than how we handle things in the United States. So I think there's a lot that can be learned by comparing what we do here to what they're doing there, again, both in Ireland and in Northern Ireland.
And this is a great illustration. Sarah's going to share a project with us, but you'll all choose a project. And just as she mentioned, if you're looking at primary and secondary education, you'll also have the opportunity to set up your own meetings to investigate your topic of interest. So we're also going to talk about history, culture in Ireland, and this is one of most students' favorite part of the trip is just the Irish people are amazingly welcoming. And since we're in the US, we have some familiarity with Irish culture just in our popular traditions because we have had so many people from Ireland who live here in the US that have carried on a lot of traditions from their heritage. And so here's some examples of us engaging in things. And as you notice, pubs are popular. And this is a graduate trip, so everyone on the trip is over 21. So we have a pre-visit lecture set up so that we can start learning about the history and culture of Ireland. We have readings around the history and culture of Ireland. It's a very proud, important country, and Northern Ireland too, so that you can look at, so that you understand when you come in, like what uh, the backdrop is that we're going into and how history evolved for the Irish people. And we'll also do a lot of fun things that are considered more sightseeing sort of activities. The Cliffs of Moher were just some of our favorite views. The natural beauty of the Irish countryside is just spectacular. And there's castles and monasteries, and we learned a lot about military history. And probably, like I said, the most cool thing is that the Irish people really want to get to know us when we're there, and so they engage us. Just if we're in a pub, they'll talk to us, and especially when we're in the Glen, we'll have an opportunity to really connect with a lot of Irish people.
So here's one example of a final report that a student did last time we were there, and he was really looking at the issue of access in Ireland, because part of how individuals are admitted into the university is based on the performance they have on what they call their leaving certificate, which is a test. And depending upon how well you test depends on where you can study and potentially what you can study. And what that then opened up Irish education for, or actually didn't open up, the exact opposite, was there's not, unlike the United States, there's not access for all for post-secondary education in Ireland. And so one of the things that they, when we were there last, is they're really embarking on this different perspective with regard to access to education for adult learners, for part-time learners, which is very, very new for them. So this student decided to really focus on access for all and the access initiative while we were in Ireland, and made sure that with each visit that we took to a university was really sharpening his focus on how they were approaching access, set up some additional meetings, did some review of the websites, looked at some of their admissions practices, and then really made this the focus of his final assignment. So this was some of the things that he found as a result of the research that he did. And I mean, again, we don't have to necessarily talk through them, but while he was there, he really underwent this investigation to find out what it was about, um, what their efforts were, and then what were some of their associated challenges. So again, what's really exciting about this is you get to pick a topic that's you're most passionate about and spend some time investigating it while you're there. And this is just one example of something that a student had undertaken.
And it was fun. He involved us all in his project. When he'd take us to different public services and private services, he'd show us ways where access was available that for a student with a physical disability that wasn't available in the US. So we all learned from this particular project. And to wrap it all up, this is one of the photos we took, Ireland 2018, and our legacy is returning in 2022. We'd love for you to be part of that. Please reach out and talk to us, and let's get you situated so you're able to come. Thank you very much.